Of the O'Hara News and Editorial on this May 5th, 2015. Tuesday. We are joined today by Gonzalo Molinolo of the University of Maryland, who was kind enough to join us on short notice. He, in my opinion, is one of the more successful student columnists who has been able to write in his school newspaper for some period of time on issues ranging all kinds of things, including social justice warriors up to men's rights and feminism, without actually getting kicked off of the editorial board. Congratulations, Mr. Molinolo. It's been, I think his writing is actually outstanding. But before he joins us, he is actually with us right now, but before we go on with our interview of him, there are two news stories which I would like to cover. The first one is coming from the Daily Caller. It was published on the 24th, which was last week. A little bit of an early article. Sorry for the delay, but this is a really good one. This concerns the woman up in Columbia University who's been carrying around a mattress in order to protest the fact that her assailant is still attending Columbia University. Written by Blake Neff. It reads, and it's titled, "The Text of the Mattress Girl Lawsuit Will Shock You." Apparently what's going on is this guy, who his name is Paul Nungesser, he is suing the university because he says it allegedly led him to be harassed by, quote, mattress girl Emma Salkowitz, who accused him of raping her. That was the first paragraph of the article. To continue, the news broke on Thursday evening, and the text of the lawsuit has been published online, and its contents are astounding. While Salkowitz has become a national hero in the campaign against campus sexual assault, the lawsuit uses Facebook messages and other evidence to paint a picture of Salkowitz as a jilted love interest whose deep obsession with Nungesser transformed into a savage hatred. The complaint extensively draws from Facebook conversations between the two, quoting Salkowitz as regarding Nungesser with tales of her past and present sexual experiences. At one point, she expresses her fears for her reputation after contracting an STD following drunken sex at a party. Quote, I've officially had sex with all of John Doe's best friends, she said in the exchange. According to the complaint, quote, did lots of drugs, JK just got very drunk, well, anyways, now I have an STD and I actually hate John Doe, like, if a girl is about to puke, don't put your unprotected dick into her. I really don't want to be known as a girl who contracted an STD because she was drunk, you know? It is more his fault for fucking me unconscious. I mean, I was unconscious, but clearly not in my right mind. I was literally blackout, like I puked all over the place. The complaint also argues that Salkowitz showed an intense romantic interest in Nungesser during the summer of 2012, which Nungesser spent in Germany. She sent him more than a dozen text messages along the lines of, Paul, I miss you. Paul, I miss you. Paul, I miss you, Paul. End quote. I would love to have you here. OMG, we could snuggle. The lawsuit even argues it was Salkowitz herself who first broached the possibility of anal sex with Nungesser, even though claims of forced anal sex are central to her claim of rape. Quote, fuck me in the butt, she said bluntly during one Facebook exchange. The lawsuit also accuses Salkowitz of persistently dishonest behavior after she began accusing Nungesser of sexual assault. For example, the lawsuit says that local police decided not to charge Nungesser due to the lack of evidence, but that Salkowitz claimed she had simply decided not to pursue charges. 3 weeks after Paul's criminal attorney was informed that rape charges would not be brought against him, Emma falsely announced that she personally decided not to pursue criminal charges against Paul. Quote, I decided I didn't want to pursue it any further because they told me it would take 9 months to a year to actually go to court, which would be after I graduated and probably wanting to erase all of my memories of the Columbia from my brain anyway. So I decided not to pursue it. Emma conveniently omitted the fact that the sex crimes unit refused to bring any charges against Paul following his investigation due to a lack of any reasonable suspicion. Article goes on for a few more paragraphs, but I actually wrote the complaint in this case, and everybody listening to this should read the complaint. It is apps. I'm going to put a link in the in the sidebar here. It's absolutely incredible. The complaint is really just. I mean, it's amazing. Clearly, this woman is a disturbed young lady, to say the least. Clearly, she has been lying all along, and the complaint is against the school. And it states that the school not just enabled her, but actually it actually funded her activities because she held events on campus. One of her professors said you should do this visual art protest and you'll get money for it. You will also heck, she got the now organization's what was it, Susan B. Anthony Award, which, from what I understand, is a very hefty scholarship award that basically would erase any of her student debt. She was invited to the State of the Union address by Senator Gillibrand. We're very familiar with that woman, and so clearly this woman has benefited tremendously from this story, and this guy is basically pointing out through all the social media posting this woman did that the whole story was a fake, and it's just crazy. And I actually went on Columbia University's Reddit page and tried to get somebody from the school to agree to an interview, and I got nothing. Well, with the exception of one comment, I got nothing but hostility. People were calling me a horrible person. Why are you trying to publicize this further for your own agenda? I'm like, wait a minute. What is this? I'm just trying to talk to people about how this has affected the school. The deal is that now these people don't want any more publicity being focused on this matter because it has turned out that this woman is a fraud, a total fake, like what happened at the University of Virginia, like what's happened at Emerson University. I wrote a story about that last year. What's happened at a number of schools where this Title IX hysteria is going on, and these people that are crying rape are obviously benefiting from doing this monetarily and attention-wise. I mean, they're going to get made for TV movies made about them. They're going to get lots of money, and it's really sad. And I think, unfortunately, with the fortunately and unfortunately, with the increase of lawsuits that are going to be leveled against schools who throw these Title IX violation actions against innocent male students who are denied due process and a lot of other civil rights, I think that's going to be kind of the silver bullet, so to speak, that ends the attention paid to the issue. But there's a double edge to it, and that is that attention to the entire issue of false accusations and more importantly, the absolutely corrupt culture of the Title IX witch hunt hysteria that's going on. It's all about money. It's all about political power. It's all about controlling the narrative, feminists controlling the narrative about sexual relations on campus and sexual assault. And I kind of thought this would happen. And it's sad that now that these people are avoiding publicity, they're actually going to get their way because the press is going to give them their way. So it's going to take attention away from the fact that these people are a bunch of crooks, which I think is sad. But anyway, since we have Gonzalo with us, I'd like him to say what he thinks about this particular story. I don't know if I sent you the link. I probably didn't, but I'm sure you get the gist of the story. What do you think about this?
When you mentioned it at first, I didn't recognize it, but when you mentioned the gentleman's name, then I recognized.
Okay.
I think I saw the link in A Voice for Men or some other website, and I thought, okay.
I put on hot links.
No, yeah, I
And
remember now. You did put it there. So, look, I wanted to do the thing that I try to do with the UVA thing, even though I as somebody who who sees false rape accusations is a bit biased towards believing they are false, I try to do the thing and say, okay, why don't we wait until there's an investigation done
Right.
to see what really happened. But then, I mean, I saw some of the things you mentioned, like how she actually tweeted or posted about, oh, she actually wanted and that she
If you read the complaint, it's amazing. It's absolutely mind-blowing that this woman actually got as far as she did.
And you know, some people will say, well, she just set back the, you know, she set back rape victims, actual ones, further a few squares back. And I say, okay,
Yeah. Mhm.
no fucking wonder she did.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And there was at
But
least one case where, there was this one case I remember, this was in England, where the genders were reversed. And he lied about his teacher raping him. So, surprise, surprise, she went through hell because he decided to make up a story. And I wonder, well, apparently nobody's immune from this type of stuff. Unfortunately, they
no,
are. This is,
this can happen to anybody at any time.
you know, and my answer to anybody who's wondering what I think, get a lawyer. Just do that. No, I mean, look, you get a lawyer in a
Yeah.
heartbeat. The last thing you need is to get behind. I mean, that's how it works. If you are facing prosecution or a civil lawsuit, which are pretty much the same, you might as well get in your A game and get a head start.
Well, the thing is, like, these things, these school disciplinary actions are billed as just that. This is just a school disciplinary action. You really don't need to get a lawyer, even though this person has accused you of a terrible crime. And the result of this supposed trial or, review or whatever the heck they call it, it could be you being expelled from school and having your entire future ruined and having yourself branded as a rapist for life. The idea is, oh, it's just a student disciplinary action. And that's what they tell you. And I've heard stories about this where guys that were accused of sexual misconduct at school, they're told initially, this isn't a big deal. You might have to sign some sort of admission of guilt, but it's not going to be a criminal thing. It's not going to carry. It's just some stupid little format. They're actually told this, but then only after the fact, only after everything's happened to them, do they realize the enormity of what has actually happened to them. They've had their due rights taken away, processed for them taken away. They've been branded as a rapist. Well, for the rest of their life. Anytime they go to another school or wherever, and it's going to come up in a background check, whatever, for the rest of their lives, even though they may have done nothing wrong. And they were never given a chance to face their accuser or present evidence. And often cases, they're not even allowed to present evidence that's exculpatory to them during these hearings. And unfortunately, they're still, people don't think this is a big deal. It's a huge deal. If you're a man on campus and you get accused of any kind of sexual misconduct, get a lawyer right away. And get your parents to cough up some money because they're going to come after you. They're going to come after you.
And pray your lawyer is a great one. Otherwise, I mean, maybe that's beside the point, but if your lawyer is a good one, hopefully you'll walk away unscathed. And we all know that lawyers are notoriously expensive. So maybe that's a bit off the topic, because I've written on, like, civil rights and stuff, so call me out if I get away too much away from the main issue. So. Sorry about that.
No, absolutely. Well, civil rights is at the crux of this issue. But anyway, let me ask you what you think about this, because there's becoming an upswell now of lawsuits being filed by male students who say they had their due process rights taken away, and that this is a true violation of Title IX.
I am absolutely in support of lawsuits.
Yes.
Any university worth its salt will respect the Constitution. And some people will make this argument, believe you me, that, well, technically a school is not a court, therefore you don't really have a Sixth Amendment. Well, I mean, maybe that's legally true in some way.
But they're still going to damage you. They're still going to take away your school. They're going to take away your reputation. They're going to take something away from you.
If the school has it does. And what I'm saying is, look, if the school has the right to discipline students, I say the opposite is also true. We have a right to discipline our schools. And I mean, I'm not somebody who went through this, but if I were to go through it, I would probably feel like I'm stuck in the deepest circle of hell, and I sure as hell would want some vengeance. Well, maybe vengeance is not the
Mm.
appropriate word. Some retribution. It's more politically correct term, I guess.
All right. Let's go on to
Mhm.
our next story. This actually happened in D.C. on Friday, and there was actually a Gamergate gathering in Washington, D.C. on Friday at the Local 13. It's a bar in I'm sorry, Local 16. It's a bar in Washington, D.C. And I only just found out about this afternoon. I wish somebody had talked to me about this, because I would have loved to have come there with my camera. And it was posted in Breitbart. Great publication. They've been very fair to men's rights activists, and fair to everybody, actually. But the title the title of the article is DC Gamergate Meetup Disrupted by, quote, Feminist Bomb Threat.
Hmm.
A 250 people strong meetup of Gamergate supporters, which included game developers, journalists, and think tank scholars, were evacuated from a bar in Washington, D.C. on Friday after an anonymous bomb threat was made against the gathering. When have we heard this before? When have we heard this before? This followed an unsuccessful social media campaign spearheaded by anti-Gamergate Salon columnist Arthur Chu to convince the bar's proprietors to voluntarily eject Gamergate supporters from their establishment. The event was the largest Gamergate gathering so far, with somewhere between 200 and 300 attendees. Oh, that's a lot. Would have loved to have been there. It follows a trend toward offline organizing by its supporters, who up until recently have tended to congregate on social media and image boards. The event was held at the Local 16 in Washington, D.C., hosted by Breitbart editor Milo Yiannopoulos, and featuring, I hope I pronounced that right, and featuring AEI resident scholar Christina Hoff Sommers as its guest of honor. Yeah. Although primarily attended by gamers, a wide range of journalists were also at the event, including author of Reason magazine contributor Kathy Young was there. Why don't these people tell me this is happening in my own backyard? Jeez, I would have loved to have been there. Daily Caller columnist and policy analyst Mythos Holt, and Washington Examiner columnist Ashley Shao, someone I've been dying to meet for quite some time now. Police arrived on the scene at approximately 12:15 a.m., just over 3 hours after the meetup had kicked off. The evacuation began immediately, causing particular difficulty for the event's two disabled attendees, who had to be carried down from the second floor. The other floors of the bar, which were occupied by regular customers, were also evacuated. It goes on to describe the events. Of course, we all know what's happened. We've seen this before. A couple people who question feminist ideology and question certain tactics by social justice warriors get together and decide to talk about it and maybe discuss it and maybe invite other people to come in and share their thoughts about the matter in an open forum. It gets shut down by either a bomb threat or a fire threat. And clearly it's coming from these people that don't want them to talk about Gamergate or what's going on in the gaming community or anything that any kind of feminist co-option scheme, and that's what the whole thing is with Anita Sarkeesian, it's a feminist co-option scheme. They don't like it when people talk about them. And I think that and this happened at the University of Toronto a couple of years ago, their handle on the narrative is straining. So now they have to revert to these tactics, of these shock tactics, and actually having to make it. And seriously, if these people get caught, someone's going to jail, because here in DC they take threats like that seriously, and they had to expend some serious resources to deal with this. I mean, they had the DC police out there, of course, they had the fire department, and a lot of other people. And DC Metropolitan Police Department is pretty well spread out. I mean, they got to protect the president. They've got all kinds of things going on in DC, all kinds of protests, all kinds of events that need special police protection. And they have a riot that's going on in Baltimore right now, where they had to send cops up there to help out. And they don't need this. So if they find out who did this, man, God help that person. God help that person, because clearly this was and we've seen this before. We can't get them to stop using regular means. So we're just going to go ahead and tell them that there's a bomb threat, that someone's going to die, and that will shut down the event, which it did. But just to cap off my little rant about this, people, seriously, if there's going to be another event like this, please somebody tell me so I can go, because I had no idea this was going on. I totally could have made that. But, you know, I know I haven't been as active lately as I used to be, but seriously, somebody tell me what's going on, because I really would have loved to have been there. It would have been so easy, and it would have been so much more fun had we had some actual video footage from this from AVFM News. But anyway, so you've heard about what's going on with Gamergate, right, Gonzalo? With the
Yeah, before I go on, let me be honest. I haven't researched it as much as I should have, but I did hear about what you were talking about, and I just looked it up on Breitbart News. The guy who sent this threat is named Andrei Ezhov, written in Cyrillic. So, since this guy thinks he's Russian, he must be a badass. Wow.
right.
No, but think about it. This guy thinks he can deceive people by using a foreign-sounding name, and you were right when you mentioned the whole DC thing. If you're gonna make a bomb threat, you might as well make it in the middle of Nevada or the desert.
Yeah, don't do it in Washington, D.C.
I mean, look, if he thinks he's a badass, let him think it. But the moment it comes out of your mouth, I know it better than a lot of people. I remember the email thing I talked to you about. I was held down to it. This guy actually has a criminal possible.
Yeah. Oh no, he if they found out who he is, he's going to jail. He's going to.
And hopefully he'll be comfortable there. It'll be a tiny cell, but you know, something so he can survive.
Hey Gonzalo, your volume is a bit low, and I've got you turned up as far as I can get you on my end.
I have it raised to 100%. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you just fine. Just talking to the mic. That's all. I think you're right. You should be able to hear you just fine.
So yeah, again, this guy. I mean, let him commit crimes. He's the one who's going to pay for it. No district attorney is going to look very favorably into somebody making a bomb threat in the middle of the Capitol. I mean, really.
Yeah.
If you're going to commit a crime, at least do it correctly. But okay, I don't judge. Well, I'm just saying, you know.
It's true. No, it's true. I mean, I'm laughing along with you. It's just they really don't mess around with this in DC. They don't understand that they're playing in a league that is totally different from where they've played before, like the University of Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Those people aren't going to like expend the extra resources to find out, you know, what happened. But you know, when you start messing around within District of Columbia borders, near the nation's capital, where the police really are strained, where they have far better things to do than deal with the false threat, someone's going to find you, and someone's going to really fuck your shit up. They're going to do it. I'm optimistic that they will do that. But anyway, that covers our news stories. We're going to go on to our guest, who has been commenting on the news stories. Gonzalo Molinolo is a history student at the University of Maryland, my alma mater. I graduated from there in 2000, and I have been following his work a little bit on the Diamondback, which is the student newspaper. And for the past year or so, he's actually written some incredibly good articles on feminism, on rape culture, on social justice warriors, and several other topics, most of which don't involve feminist criticism or anything like that, but involve other things. I think that he wrote a couple of articles about sleep, getting the right amount of sleep every night. I don't know. I didn't read those.
That was a special one.
Oh, okay. But he, for a while, he was actually allowed to do this and was not kicked off of the editorial board by the Diamondback. And he was never kicked off. He no longer writes for the Diamondback. But what happened last week is he got into a heated email exchange with a reader and fellow University of Maryland student, and it was a heated exchange, and things got a little bit out of control, and he was compelled to apologize by the Diamondback, and he no longer writes for them, but you did quit before this whole thing with the email Twitter leaks came out. So either here nor there, we've seen this kind of thing before, where somebody shoots off an email to somebody, whether it be a men's rights activist or a columnist who writes some articles, and they catch them in a bad way, and they divulge their email exchanges, and someone looks stupid, rightfully or wrongfully. That's how it works. But I would like to congratulate you, Mr. Molinolo, for having lasted so long as a columnist at the Diamondback at the University of Maryland, which is a very, very, very feminist campus. I went there myself, and I enjoy your articles, and I hope the people listening now have read the description of the show and have read some of your articles, and I'm sure they share my opinion, and that is that they are outstanding. So, thanks for joining us, Gonzalo.
My pleasure.
Ooh. So you're not a native to the U.S.
Nope.
But you just got citizenship status not too long ago. Is that correct?
Yes, I have been a citizen of the United States since March of 2012. Got
Great.
my citizenship certificate in Baltimore, of all places.
Great, congratulations. So I guess your parents came up here, and then you just sort of lived up here. And
so what happened was my family and I moved gradually from circa 2001 to 2002 here. My parents worked for the government, and well, obviously that made it easier. And my sister, so I have my immediate family here, my sister, parents, and I. And we gradually took up citizenship. After years of staying, I mean, we might as well. And yeah, March 2012, I turned in my green card. It was kind of emotional. I stayed with a green card for a long time, and suddenly I gotta give it to them. But
it's interesting. Interesting that you would say that.
Yeah, so I came from Buenos Aires, Argentina. That's where I was raised and born and raised, like they say here. And yeah, been here ever since. I joined the University of Maryland in 2013. Yeah, 2013. And I've been there ever since, studying.
Great, and you're studying history.
Yes,
you're
sir.
You're now a junior, correct?
Yes.
Great. So you're gonna graduate in the fall of this year, or
spring of
spring of next year? Okay, great. What are you specializing in?
Western European history. Prior to that was actually medieval, but at the suggestion of my counselor, I just changed it to Western European. It doesn't really make that difference. So yeah, Western European.
Yeah, they probably thought it would be more useful for you too. Is that how they billed it to you?
No, not necessarily, because she saw the classes I was taking. I was not just taking medieval, I was taking a lot of Western Europe because I like Western Europe. And then she said, look, why don't you just, maybe switch to this, which would be more appropriate as an area of focus. And I said, okay, that works.
So
yeah, we have a lot of areas of focus. Sorry, go ahead.
And I'm sorry. And when did you you said you started going to the University of Maryland in 2012, correct?
13.
When did you start getting interested in writing for? Or were you invited to write for the Diamondback?
Actually, what I did. So what the Diamondback allows you to do, first of all, is to be a guest columnist. So you write an article on whatever, just once. And I said, okay, I'm going to try this. And I typed up an article on... It was an article on the whole Syrian-Ukraine thing saying, hey, let's not get involved, basically. I just said, okay, I'll see if this gets printed. And I sent it to them via email. I never got an email response on whether or not it came out. But I discovered that it came out because I just typed in my name on Google and that popped up. I said, whoa, they actually printed it out. That's nice. And
Robert, your ground is drowning everything out.
Is that better?
Much better.
Okay. Gonzalo, you still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, we lost you right around when you were talking about the Syrian-Ukraine article.
What I was saying is I got involved, first of all, because I saw that they published it, and then I thought, well, maybe there's a career in this, and it was, when was it exactly? Well, fall of 2014, about a year later, I just sent them an email saying, hey, so you guys hiring at it by any chance? And believe it or not, I got hired immediately as a new opinion columnist. That was fun, I guess.
So, when you started writing for the Diamondback, at what point did you decide to write articles that were critical of feminism and critical of the idea of rape culture and several other things about the lack of due process and whatnot?
So what happened was, I remember when Emma Watson gave her speech at the United Nations,
Right.
and I watched it. I mean, I think at that time I wasn't too into the men's rights things, so I said, okay, I'll just watch it. I don't know. And when I finished watching, I thought, wow, this is one of the most condescending speeches I've ever heard towards men. Okay, wow, I gotta respond to this, basically. I mean, when I was writing my articles, I just needed something to write about, and this was a good chance, I guess, to do it. And I watched Stefan Molyneux's reply to her UN speech, and that kind of motivated me further to write it. Yeah, that's how I discovered him. I just looked up her speech, and I saw that he replied to her. So, yeah,
Were you a Stefan Molyneux fan before all this?
No, I didn't even know he existed before that.
Okay, so that was kind of your introduction to Stefan Molyneux's work, as well as probably a lot of other people's when it came to.
It always happens that way. I just look up something, and before I know it, okay, I got a new favorite YouTuber. Yay, That's pretty much that's standard procedure, if you want to call it that. So I wrote my article, and I got mixed results. I had some people pretty much say, well, what an asshole you are, and whatever. And I had someone stop me when I was walking to the bus stop saying, hey, I liked your article. So that was fun. It was two different reactions completely.
What was the drive of your article that you wrote about that? That it was condescending towards men, and that what else was there? If you could give us the article in a nutshell, what were the points you're trying to get across?
Here, let me actually. I might be able to look it up now. But what happened was, when I saw her speech, I perceived that the whole he for she was not egalitarian to begin with. Her attitude to me, the way I perceived it was, okay, I acknowledge that men have their issues, and I said, okay, yeah, go on. Now women need your help to do whatever. I said, wow, okay, you completely missed the point, Emma. You completely missed it. She was essentially asking for help, and then saying, well, we're all equal, stuff like that.
Right.
And Stefan pretty much said the same thing, of course, in a more elaborate and eloquent manner. And at that time, I was getting tired of this whole nonsense of feminism, but I wasn't tired enough. I guess you could call this the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right. So, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about, and this is one of the things I really want to get at during this show. Let's talk about the environment on campus at the University of Maryland, College Park. I went there. I graduated in 2000. I remember when I was going there as a student. As a student at a school like the University of Maryland, where there's so much academic competition. The University of Maryland really is not like your average school. Above average students go there. It's a great place to go to an education. So when most people are going there, they're serious about getting their degree requirements fulfilled. They're worried about how well they're going to perform on the next term paper. And there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of on-campus student activism, much like the kind you would find in other universities, like, well, quite frankly, universities where they don't require that much of their students academically. I hate to put it that way, but I really believe that's true. But there was definitely in academia, there was a feminist presence. It was smothering, actually. Definitely in the administrative areas, and I went to work in administration after I graduated, and I can tell you for real the feminist influence on administration is amazing, and most male students do not understand just how badly they're getting screwed over by administration. I can tell you that from firsthand experience. But it wasn't really that much of a big deal for your average student just going, undergraduate student just going to class and doing things. It was just kind of like some really faint background noise. But but now you're here in the here and now at the University of Maryland. What pushed you? Was it something in your school experience that pushed you to start writing criticisms about feminism, or was it something else? Was it something outside of campus? Was it everything? Could you describe for us uh, what the environment is for men on campus in regards to this feminist hysteria, especially what's going on now with the Title IX hysteria, how that's affected campus? If you could give us an insight into all that. I hope that's not too much to ask.
No, not at all. Look, I would say that the drive was both outside and inside.
Mhm.
I mean, here, let me think about my answer. So, the more I looked at the
Sure,
voice
take your
for
time.
men, yeah, no. So, the more I looked at the Voice for Men and one of my favorite users on YouTube, the Amazing Atheist, the more I came into contact with, well, the men's rights movement. Okay,
Right.
this was a big eye opener for me. Um, it really, I want to say, it changed me a lot. So I began to see things from a different perspective. Now, university-wise, I would say that the feminist presence, I guess it's moderate. To be honest, and to be fair to my opponents, it's not like they're going to burn their bras every other day, but you often see um, these what do you call it? Usually there's these sort of monuments that they put around with white shirts saying like,
Oh, the T-shirt thing. Yeah, right, right,
and I,
right. Did they do the Watermelon Her Shoes events too, where they got
yes,
these
they
guys to
had
walk
one
around?
recently. What they did was they had a poster in it in the middle of the mall of the place, and I thought, wow, okay.
Well, what's your thought about how most students feel about stuff like that? Do you think most students feel like the same way you do, or they're just kind of benevolent, or they just sort of see this as a nuisance because it's like, do they feel that these people who put on these events are grounded in reality? What's the reaction, the overall reaction of the average student to these
I
things?
think the average student's not too concerned with that.
Right,
Um,
they're going to get raped.
well, I mean, I like to think that most students are reasonable about it. I mean, they don't seem to be too concerned, too influenced. But of course, we do have a feminist studies department, believe it or not. I pass it through every day. It's in Tolliver Hall. I know where it is.
Yeah, I know where it is
That's not
too.
a
Yeah.
threat, by the way. That's just me gathering intelligence. No, I
Mm-hmm.
think most students, to me, they seem ambivalent. And the thing is, there's so many organizations, I couldn't count them even if I wanted to, that maybe there's an overload of information. So I don't know if they have enough room to think about it, which is probably not a bad thing. We have everything. We have everything from a gun club to the comedy club and whatever. So maybe, feminists have their own competition to deal with. That's not a bad thing.
So you started writing about this stuff, and you said you got reactions, some positive, some negative.
Yes.
What was the reaction of the? Obviously, the editorial staff of the Diamondback was receptive because they published your articles.
Yes.
Did you? Was there any kind of controversy amongst the Diamondback staff, or were some people? Was there one editor that didn't like you, and one editor said, "Hey, listen, let's get this guy published because he has a interesting opinion about this stuff."
I mean,
Um,
they were receptive, and I don't think, to my knowledge, there were any people who didn't like me in the editorial staff.
mm,
Um, when I replied to a rebuttal of my own article, he said, "Look, I want you to tone it down because it's a bit too personal," and I agreed
mm,
to it, of course, because the newspaper has to have some limits. And he said, "You know what?
sure.
I agree that you have legitimate grievances, so go ahead and just tone it down a little." I mean, there was a little, I guess, a little show of support or whatever, but for the most part, these people are very open-minded. I mean, they will publish everything from the libertarians to the far leftists to the environmentalists. And I guess from a purely business perspective, it helps them a lot. If you appeal to everybody, you got everybody as a friend.
But also they get readers the more controversial the subject.
That's true. That is true. There's actually a fellow writer by the name of Patrick who's written some articles dealing with the same issue of the UVA and the Sixth Amendment thing. And I read them and I liked them very much, but despite his gentlemanly tone, he was not immune from being accused of denying rape culture, even though he never did in those columns.
Right.
In the comments section, people are just free to be complete idiots. I mean,
Yes.
kudos to them because they're anonymous people who don't have the courage to show their own face. But I mean, if you're gonna, and this applies to everybody, including me, if you're gonna attack somebody, make sure you're attacking them for the correct thing they spoke about. I don't know. It's just idiots. I don't even know.
So, is there anybody else on the editorial staff that writes about the things you wrote about, or?
Well, some people have.
Do you see any other? Do you see that? Do you think? Let me put it this way. Do you think you may be the last person on the editorial on the columnist staff to write about anti-feminist issues or men's rights issues or any tertiary things involved with that?
Actually, I might not be the last one because there was this one gentleman who did write about men's issues, and he came from I don't know what you would call his perspective, but he came from the perspective of how feminists and men's rights activists should be one and should not be part of a zero-sum game, which I thought was reasonable enough, and his article seemed pretty good about it. Luckily, he didn't get bombarded with bullshit from his enemies or whatever, but I mean, that's, I guess, one direction to go. He wasn't, look, what I'm saying is, to clarify, he wasn't hating or liking one side or the other. He acknowledged, look, both genders have shit to put up with, so we might as well not see it as a zero-sum game. So I thought that was reasonable and, similar to what I wrote. Maybe mine is a bit more vitriolic, which I admit, but sometimes.
I personally don't think there was anything vitriolic about your articles at all.
We can disagree on that one.
Well,
I mean, look, go ahead. Yeah, just don't worry.
What I would say is there's nothing in your articles that wasn't true, and the truth often inspires an angry response, which is not only natural but I think correct. And I think that there may be a desire amongst the student newspaper to say, hey, listen, we just want to have opinion sharing and civil conversation, and some of this stuff might be inflammatory, so can you just tone it down a little bit? I can understand that, but at the same time, there are certain subjects like feminism and men's rights that are, by their necessity, by their very nature, inflammatory. And they're not inflammatory because of anything that people writing about them are trying to inject into it. It's just it's stuff that needs to be talked about, and unfortunately, I think in some cases needs to be yelled about. But that's my. I'm just interjecting into the interview here my personal opinion about this. And again, I've read your articles and they're brilliant, and they're seriously compared to some of the stuff you would read on Voice for Men and some other men's websites, incredibly tame, but at the same time, incredibly well written and well thought out. And I hate to see any kind of confusion between exposing the truth for what it is and reasonable discourse for being over the top.
Yeah, well,
that's my critique of your critique, and that's just it.
Agreed. It's just, I don't know. It's a good thing that I haven't had an editor, because trust me, if you don't have an editor, things go out of hand when you're writing down these things.
Oh no, yeah.
I have the evidence to prove it. I still have the original copies in my hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
The classified files.
Submit them to A Voice for Men. They might get published.
Oh.
Maybe.
Yes. Yes, declassified for public use.
Mm.
Um,
Whatever. I'm just kidding.
yeah, don't worry about it.
Anyway, so right now, I kind of get the feeling that you kind of want to take a break from the whole thing and whatnot. But are you kind of interested in seeing where you want to go with? I mean, do you want to get involved in a men's rights group? And if you say no, it's not an incorrect answer. But do you plan to continue writing about this stuff and maybe try to get published even in some student publications? I mean, how many are there any other student publications at the University of Maryland besides the Diamondback nowadays? I know there were a couple when I was going there.
There might be. I haven't checked them because the Diamondback was the first one I found.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a gander maybe later. But as for joining, yeah, I could do that. I always wanted to write an article regarding the whole circumcision thing, which I think it's pathetic that we still allow circumcision of boys without their consent.
Right.
It's that one article I always postpone because I had something else to work on. And oh, trust me, I have a lot to say about that issue. It's just
Sure.
It's bullshit. Like no, it's like
Yeah.
the level of hysteria over even like anti-Semitism with anti-circumcision laws is ridiculous. Since you can always trust these people to make the most idiotic statements to protect their psyche.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, if somebody puts a swastika on a synagogue, that's anti-Semitism. If somebody tells you to please not to play butcher with that little boy, that's not anti-Semitism. I'm a Jew. I know anti-Semitism better than some people do.
Oh, so you're Jewish?
Yes, quite.
And you were anti-circumcision?
Of course.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I've been dying to get someone like you on our
Yeah, we are.
show.
We are a very rare species.
But I've heard of a lot of Jewish people coming out against circumcision, saying that this is genital mutilation. We should do it.
You know what the thing about Judaism is?
But it's not. They're maligned. Or do you feel that as a Jewish person who is against circumcision, that you were maligned more by people within the Jewish community than, let's say, people outside the Jewish community?
I don't know the exact answer because you'll be surprised how many people like do this thing where they get offended on behalf of Jews. So I think personally, I haven't expressed my views on circumcision, so I don't know what I will get as a response. Probably plenty of flack. But I would not be surprised if half the flack came from non-Jews, because you will always have these people who, out of a desire to be seen as good, will get offended on behalf of somebody else. And it's just...
Yes, on behalf of somebody else, right, of course.
Yeah, here, let me be offended for you. Let me share your grief about this alleged anti-Semitism. Shut the fuck up. Look, I don't care what you think. People have these rights, but whenever religion comes into it, you can always find some hidden pathway to your mischievous goal. That's just the nature of the beast.
Well, when it comes to circumcision, there are a lot of things other than religion that come to people saying now that it stops the spread of HIV, which is total bullshit. They're saying it makes the little boys cleaner, and why would we want to submit boys to not looking like all the other little boys in the gym locker room? I mean, it's all bullshit, and it's. Let's talk about this issue some more. I really do, because this is an issue that I have championed for a while now. But the thing I've noticed is that whenever you talk to women about this, or feminists about this issue, hey, we have this big problem with like men getting their young boys, infants, without their consent, getting their foreskins, the most sensitive part of their body, getting chopped off without their consent. And whenever you bring this up, it's like feminists say, "Wait a minute, you're trying to infringe on one of our number one issues here, which is female genital mutilation. And if you even dare mention male genital mutilation, you're trying to somehow minimize female genital mutilation. And that's what they think in their minds. If there's any example of the zero-sum game mentality when it comes to feminism, it is the circumcision issue. It is the genital mutilation issue. Just bringing this point up that, hey, what is this business that it's completely illegal to hack off an infant's, a part of infant's genitals if they're male, but not if they're female? Why is it that even questioning why this is the way it is right now? Why is it that I am somehow a misogynist or someone who encourages female genital mutilation? But they will actually put it in those terms if you bring this up.
You know what? It's I don't. Let's get back to the thing of victimhood. I don't believe in victim blaming. I also don't believe in victim worship. They want you to worship those who went through female genital cutting.
Yes.
No man.
They're the victims they like, not the ones that you like, or any kind of victims at all. Are the
person's
like.
genitals or body, for that matter, to be touched. I don't care if you have 2 X chromosomes or just 1. I'm glad that female genital cutting is banned, but I don't care, and I don't want to hear any more of this argument that you mentioned that we're minimizing it or taking something. I don't care. Boys have this right not to have parts of their bodies cut off. And it's so simple, I cannot make it simpler. And I don't know, dude, it took Christopher Hitchens to convince me, and I read in his book, God Is Not Great, to say, well, maybe we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't allow this. That's the most damning piece of evidence that feminists don't believe in equality. Because if they did...
Absolutely, yeah.
Because if they did, male circumcision would have been outlawed in Title 18 of the United States Code. That's where you find the law against female genital mutilation.
Well, this is a long list of hypocrisies, including like the entire domestic violence issue, which is not a gendered issue, the entire voting rights issue, where women can vote, but they don't have the same responsibilities that men do as far as submitting themselves to the possibility of dying for their country, and other things like the education issue, the rape issue, everything, reproductive rights, where women have these reproductive rights that men don't, but anytime a man speaks out and says, hey, look, I don't have any reproductive rights, I want fertility control, and I shouldn't be forced into parenthood just because I had sex with somebody. Well, the second you say that as a male, feminists are all over you. What kind of man are you? Oh, geez, whatever. You're going to walk out and say, listen, this is sheer hypocrisy we're talking about here.
I'm the type of man who wants my own goddamn destiny. You don't like that? I suggest you burn your goddamn bra. I'm saying, like, if I were to respond to it, I would say, well, I'm the type of man who wants to be the captain of his own ship. Can we have that?
Right.
No, that's misogynist.
No, you can't. That's misogynist. Right.
What you're referring to is actually called a male abortion, and the person who came up with it was a female lawyer from North Carolina. Not some, quote-unquote angry men's rights activist. This was a lawyer who said, hey, this has to happen. It's called equality. So, if they ever come up to you and make that assumption or whatever, just remind them, no, it was actually a female who saw that men deserve equality too, who came up with
Tell us more about this person, and how did you get interested in this?
I just went on Wikipedia, and I know Wikipedia is not always reliable, but let me look it up. She was a lawyer, I think, who published it in 1998. Male abortion. I'm looking up right now. Paternal rights and abortion. Okay. Dang, I can't find it right now. It was here that she was a law professor or something who made the statement this should happen. I can't find it right now. They might have edited the article, but actually, here's the interesting one. You ever heard of what do you call it? Dubay v. Wells, the court case in the Northwest?
It sounds somewhat familiar.
So Dubay v. Wells was the one that was essentially Roe v. Wade for men, that stated whether a man had to be a father against his will
Right.
And in the
Well, there have been
end,
several laws. There have been several cases like that.
what this guy, well, I'm not going to judge him. The gentleman in question eventually did not appeal to the Supreme Court. So ever since, I'm assuming he's still paying for child support. But again, getting back to the issue, I don't remember who this woman was. I swear I saw her here somewhere. But you know, even if it was a he who came up with it, who cares? The problem is that feminists they believe in equality. Fine, but what is equality? I mean, are you wanting to get rid of handicaps for women? That's fine. What about our handicaps? No? Then you don't believe in equality. You just don't. It's he and she for each other, not he for she, like Emma Watson said. It's bullshit. Yeah, it was a bit of a tirade, but you know, sometimes I do that. My bad.
Nothing wrong with that. You're welcome to do that here. So let's go back to what's going on campus right now.
Yes.
We mentioned the Walk a Mile in Her Shoes events that you saw, and the Clothesline Initiative thing. These things are ubiquitous amongst college campuses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the University of Maryland campus is now, and has always been for decades now, a humongous campus.
Oh,
What's the student population now? Like 30,000 now?
Yes, around that, and thanks to
that includes like graduate students and post.
all of them. I think that also includes like inside and outside the school. So.
Right. Okay. But like actually on campus, it's stayed like right around 18 to 20,000 for the past 10 years, I think, where you have all these people on campus.
It's crowd. There's plenty of people there, and
go to the institutional research page.
Yeah, let me see. University of Maryland. To be honest, I went to Wikipedia because I'm a bit lazy. So there are 26,826 undergraduates and 10,805 postgraduates. So yeah, 37,000. Wow.
And that's even people like at University College who are getting their degree online or like who don't live on campus.
So, yeah. This statistic does not count the one in Baltimore County, but this one's only
called. Oh yeah, UMBC, that's about 10,000 up there. So
still pretty big.
Yeah.
This university.
It's still very big. Yeah.
This university is so big. I actually exercise every time I go to my classes. Pretty much, it's incredible.
Oh, I know. I did that too. It's a long walk from one part of the campus to another. When you got 10 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
But I just remember when I was going there, just the hustle and bustle of being a student, an undergraduate student, and just trying to get, like as you said just now, trying to get from one class to another, trying to get something to eat, trying to find a place to take a nap in between classes if you had a 2-hour break, which is what I did in the history lounge. It's not there anymore, I don't think.
No, I don't know what's happening now is that they're rebuilding a lot. There's actually one of the roads leading to the mall is closed because they're doing reconstruction. It's taking a while, honestly. But
well, yeah. there's the old history building right there on the right there on the quad. What's the name of it?
Francis Scott Key.
Okay, there used to be a lounge right as you went in the front door.
Yeah, I remember now. I think I might have seen it once or twice, but
it's gone. Well, last time I was there last year, I walked into it and it was gone, and it was the only place to take a nap on campus. And now people have to bring like
pillows,
sacks, and hammocks and stuff.
Worst case scenario, you just go to your car. Hopefully, it won't heat up like an oven.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the weird thing about that the campus is like there's this huge like hustle and bustle. There's no place to take a rest or anything like that. So it seems like student activities like feminist activities are only carried out by either the most dedicated or the people on campus, the administrators, who are actually getting paid to carry out those events. But they do exist. What was the last time? When was the last time that a feminist organization had an event on campus that you were aware of, where you actually saw them out there on the quad or in front of the library?
So the walk in her shoes was at least 3 weeks ago. There were a few.
Oh, okay. How many people showed up for that?
I have no idea because I just try to ignore it as much as possible. Trust me.
Okay, yeah, like most students do, yeah. But where was it? Do you remember where it was, or?
No, I saw it and I realized, okay, I'm getting my eyes poisoned with this. I'm not paying attention to it.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just because I don't want to.
Do you think that's?
I want to avoid it, and it's just I don't know.
Do you think that most students feel the same way you do about that?
Yeah, probably because you'd be surprised just how much stuff they put up to get your attention, especially inside the buildings. I mean, people will even resort to drawing with chalk on the sidewalk. Hey.
Oh yeah, they did that. Yeah. 1 in 3 men are rapists. 1 in 3 women will get raped. They did that when I was going to school.
And even for stuff that's pointless, like, here, commuters get a free meal. What the fuck do I care? Okay, thanks.
Oh, okay, I see. Right. So all that just gets drowned out. It's the last thing you pay attention to. Because I remember you had if you're walking up by the student union, you had like the Jesus freaks who hung themselves up by crosses and shit like that. And like when you first saw it as a incoming student, you're like, wow, that's really messed up. Wow. But then you just learn how to ignore it because it just got too much.
Yeah, I've had one Jesus freak who I knew from another college, but he never did the cross thing. That's just.
Oh, there was no seriously. They did that when I was in school, right there by the student union where they had that amphitheater there. This guy actually drove a cross into the ground and hung himself on it and stayed there for like 20 hours. And it was pretty stupid, man. Yeah. Well,
like New Testament planking, essentially.
Yeah. Guy, I don't know what happened to the guy. I think he had to get medical attention or something like that.
Yeah,
but no one paid attention.
Why?
Yeah.
Clearly, he liked his Lord and Savior a lot.
Yeah, it was pretty. Well, I mean that was like one instance back then where after seeing the guy once, I was like, okay, I'm never going to pay attention to another Jesus freak again on campus ever, and I didn't.
It might do you good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
But again, you have causes on campus like that are in competition with each other. You have the TradCon. Oh, this is a good question.
Go ahead.
Tell us, if you can, about any TradCon activities on campus. Like pro-marriage people,
I don't recall many.
The Network of Enlightened Women.
Actually, I don't recall any such TradCons around. They're
very well disguised.
Well, they might be. I swear to you, I have not seen anything along those lines. I've seen the LaRouche movement, the Lyndon LaRouche.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they're TradCons or just plain conspiracy theorists. Maybe something in between. I've seen them. They're interesting people, I think. I don't know. I've seen communists like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and not TradCons. I wouldn't be surprised if the feminists went after them with hatchets and lynch ropes. But
well, here's the thing: they may go after you even more because you use facts and rationality rather than these good old-fashioned notions of America and stuff like that, which most people abandoned anyway.
Let them. This is just It's like a needle in a haystack. It's not going to do anything. Not a needle in a haystack. It's like a drop in a bucket of water. Most students, I don't think, would be very welcoming of them. I'm sorry, but TradCons are usually beyond I'm assuming that's beyond what's acceptable. Because now that you mention it, I'm assuming I should have seen one by now, but not at all. Trust me. Maybe that's for the better. Nah, actually it isn't. I like to.
Well, no. I mean, I went through a list of student organizations yesterday when I was thinking about the show, and they had. It seemed to me that the University of Maryland list was pretty generic, and it kind of spoke to how what I believe to be this atmosphere where this is a school where you are driven to perform. So any kind of distraction is really not welcome to the average student who's just trying to get their undergraduate degree.
Yep.
Do you think that's pretty much accurate?
Yeah, I think it is. Well, the only time that people I see gather up is when we usually have is like we show all the clubs that one special day where all the clubs just show up and say, hey, join us. That is the only time I see students really digging into it. Why? Because it's fun. But other than that, no,
Right.
students don't like feeling or thinking they're being distracted, that you're doing it on purpose
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
Which is good. I mean, it's a school. You're supposed to break your ass working, you know.
Right. There should be distractions too. I mean,
Maybe.
but,
Moby Dick's House of Kebab. That's my favorite distraction.
oh, sweet.
I
Yeah, that's
love
that place right where the that Greek sandwich place is, right?
No,
What
it's
is it?
inside this, not Tolliver. What do you call it? I forgot the name.
Oh, it was inside the student union place, right?
Yes, yes, the Stamp. That's where it is.
The Stance Union. Oh.
For
Is that
ten
new? How long is
dollars.
it?
Yeah, it's a new place, I think, and you'll get for $10 you get a nice kebab, some vegetables, and
Really?
rice. Yeah,
Nice, man. They didn't have
and
that when I was there.
if you add an extra dollar, you get like a what do you call it? A faluda, which is a sort of rice thing from Persia, Iran. I
Mm.
mean, good stuff.
So is it a Persian thing or is it like a
It's Iranian. It's 100% Iranian.
wow,
Even the
man.
owner, even the manager of that restaurant is Iranian.
Wow.
Tell him he's an Arab. He'll probably never talk to you again.
Oh no, he'll never know. No, that's the kiss of death. Don't ever call a Persian.
It's like calling Canadians Americans and vice versa.
Yeah, it's just it may be worse. Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll go with that. No, besides the feminists, I think that this campus has so much to offer. I survived most of it. I don't.
Right.
Though, to be honest, I have had to be careful with going too much to the restaurants. First, I waste money. Second, my weight is not the most balanced. So we'll be careful with that.
So, how old are you?
I am 23.
Okay. Do you go do you go out and have a couple beers every once in a while?
Once or twice, I'm not a big drinker. Once or
Okay.
twice a month.
Have you ever been to Town Hall Liquors?
Where is that? I haven't been to it.
It's at Route 1. It's the kind of like the local bar that the students go to. That's where they have a bunch of the townies hanging out. It's still there. I know it's still there. It's
Is it
if you head up.
Avenue, where all those stores are?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Really?
right there. It's a liquor store, but also it's a dive bar. It's like, well, there's really only one dive bar, and that's Town Hall Liquors. And if you go in there, if you go up, you're going north on Route 1 from the main entrance of the school, and it's basically right on your right, just a couple blocks down, right past the firehouse.
I'll check it out sometime.
Okay, well, if you haven't been there, I don't know. I think they may have torn it down. I don't know. Because I know they were putting up high rises around there. That's where I hung out when I was. Yeah, that's where I hung out when I was going to school there. But
Yeah.
I'm an old man now.
Hey, being an old man means you live by yourself. Okay, I don't live by.
Yeah.
I know you miss your youth, but just be thankful that you have what you have now. I wish I was.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It ain't, hell, whatever.
Yeah, the thing is, alcohol drives me crazy, so I gotta be careful of that too.
Okay. Well, yeah. Then definitely stay away from Town Hall Liquors, please,
Do I have to?
because it will compel you to drink. I'm just saying, it's
Oh.
one of those alpha hook places where anything goes. It really is.
Well, now
I'm getting too personal now. I'm sorry. This is a new show. I should
I know.
get back to the interview.
Yeah, of course.
So anyway, I did ask you before about your plans for the future, whether or not you want to continue to get into men's rights stuff or anti-feminism stuff or whatever, or just continue writing as a columnist. Is this something you would like to do in the future? Or is this do you want to like try to get into writing for periodicals about your opinions about these things?
No, I think that the whole men's rights thing appeals to me more. I would like to
Okay.
take part. Yeah, that second option, I think, will be better for me.
What as far as your academic career, do you want to go on and get your master's degree and your doctorate? Is that kind of where you want
I
to
don't
go
know
with it?
just yet. I'm a bit skeptical of the whole master's thing. I'll think about it. It has its perks, but now I want to graduate and maybe just save up some money because money doesn't grow on trees, unfortunately.
No, that does not
Um,
grow on trees.
After
And
this
school's
year,
expensive.
yep, that is one of the greatest contributions of school. Nah, just kidding. I love
Take,
College Park.
taking your money.
Look, I love College Park. They gotta make a profit off of me. I get it. It's capitalism, and we all in the end are
Uh,
friends. Um, no, yeah. So for now, like I said, I want to graduate in 2016. I want to hopefully get money, just save up some. I already have a job at Postmates. You might have heard of it.
Post it?
Postmates.
Doing what?
So
Postmates, doing what?
so Postmates is you essentially buy food for people that they ask you to buy, and you deliver it to them. It's
Okay, cool.
it's one of those jobs that is app based, like Lyft and Uber.
Oh, okay. So
Except
you're basically a food deliverer, basically is what you're doing.
yeah, pretty much, but not always food. I could deliver anything they asked me to buy, even like a computer. That happens.
Okay.
I only finished one job, and what I want to do this summer, since I have some free time, is I want to hopefully get more assignments done and save up some dough, hopefully.
Did they give you 20% of the ticket
That
item cost?
So I get 80% of whatever the item cost, and the other 20%.
Oh, you get
Yeah, I get a lot of it, but here's the thing.
80% of what the item costs?
Yeah, of what it costs, not 20.
Wow.
I would not do this job if it were 20.
That's a lot of money, dude. Well, I
It
mean, if you
is.
buy a computer for
Exactly. That's the proposal.
$1,000, then you get $800. Really?
Apparently so.
For going and buying it?
Oh, what's also
Wow.
happens is that doesn't count tips. Because
Right.
your customers who order the food, if you do a good job, they'll give you a tip online. So,
Mhm.
yeah. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I did one job because I just said, you know what, I'll try it, and it went fine. I drove down to DC. I got this guy like 3 items from McDonald's, and it went smoothly. I like working. I like that because I don't know. I feel like an adult for once. Yeah. So
Maybe.
money and graduating, those are things that matter to me
Yeah.
very much.
It sounds to me like going on to get your master's and doctorate may not be for you then, because
I mean,
not necessarily going into adulthood there. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah,
well, there is the rise of the man-child who doesn't really care
yeah,
about.
of course, yeah.
If I survive, I think I'm fine with it. But yeah, but don't get me wrong. I may not go for a master's. I might, but I still like to be an intellectual. I like to read and shit like that. I may not be, a Harvard professor one day, but I'm content with reading and, having my opinions. My opinions have changed thanks to the fact that I opened my own mind and I read. And that, I think, took a lot of courage for me. I used to be a feminist. I don't know if I ever told you that. I actually
Yeah,
believe.
you said that.
I said that maybe in the phone call, whatever. But look, I used to believe, and I sincerely ask for forgiveness from the God of men. I sincerely believed that if a man got a woman pregnant, and I hate that phrase, he had a responsibility to take care of her and the child.
Right.
I was never a militant feminist, but looking back, I think, how did I ever think something like that? Just what? Okay, no. And now, forget it. From feminist to men's rights activist. I convert, my brother. I convert.
But you talked about reproductive rights.
Yes.
How did that logical progression end up with you? Because you said this, where if a guy had sex with a woman, clearly the only thing that she needed to force this guy into parenthood was the fact that he had sex with her. Whereas if you consent to have sex, then you consent to parenthood. Whereas on the other side of the coin, which is complete bullshit, because with women, it's the opposite. Women have complete control of their fertility. They can have an abortion, and they can give the baby up for adoption. So having sex for a woman is not consent to parenthood. But included in a woman's reproductive rights is the right to force a man into parenthood against his wishes, simply because he had sex with her, which is not consent to parenthood.
Not only forced responsibility, you hunt him down and you put him in jail. He fails one.
Yeah, put him in jail.
Child
And
support.
shoot him in the back when he runs from the cops, as we saw a couple weeks ago.
That one was just beyond forgiveness. Like,
yeah.
This is, I mean, and now we can get into the whole cop brutality. This guy was murdered. I hate to sound like I'm the prosecutor, but this guy was murdered. And you're telling me the whole thing escalated from a fucking child support payment? Fuck you, dude.
Yeah, seriously.
Just chill the fuck
Did it make it easier for that cop to pull the trigger because he was a deadbeat dad? You know, you have to ask yourself. You know, and people like to talk about the racial issue, and it is very important, but at the same time, you know, the deadbeat dad thing came into play in this case, I think. It was because clearly that's why.
Whammy. It's a double whammy.
Yeah.
There's people who put wanted posters of quote-unquote deadbeat dads, like essentially igniting a witch hunt. I mean, you're going to do that, fine, as long as you do the same for deadbeat mothers, who, by the way, exist, shockingly enough. Some people do that.
And to be sure, every child that has been born since 1972 was born because of the unilateral decision of the mother to have that child. And there's no getting around this. And so it's not like the guy has a choice in the matter. We really don't. But we have all this responsibility, and we're the ones going to jail. Not cool.
You know, I believe, I mean, I don't know if you agree with me, just bear with me. I'm okay with female abortion, but I'm okay with both types of abortions too.
Absolutely. I'm totally with you. Hey, listen, if you're a woman and you're not ready to become a mommy and you're pregnant and you want to go down that route, you go on ahead and do it. It's legal. You all fought for that right. You go right on ahead and do it. But men should have parity in reproductive rights in that regard. Because if we don't, then we're nothing but slaves.
Of course. And
that's
again, the problem is it's a single narrative, and that's why you can't have equality with a single narrative. There's two narratives involved. The narrative is, okay, I don't want to become a father. I had sex, so what the hell does that have to do with a child? If I put precautions, look, if I put on a condom, that is evidence that I clearly wanted to diminish the consequences, the likelihood of consequences. So, I mean, there's this really warped logic, quote unquote. It's
totally warped.
Okay, so if she has sex, she can do whatever she wants. He's unmanly, he should man up. Fuck you.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Owe you money simply because you don't want to border or for some bullshit reason? No, I'm not gonna be a man then.
Because you made a unilateral decision to have this baby, and it has nothing to do with what he wants. It has to do with what you want, and therefore someone else is responsible.
If she wants to have the baby, you know what? It's called a human right. She can do it. Just pay for it. It's her body. Here, you know how people pro-choicers say it's my body? Okay, here's my answer. It is your body, and it's my wallet.
Yeah.
Emphasis added, for obvious
reasons.
Well,
what I like to say is that at any given time, there are 50,000 bodies in jail for, quote, failure to pay child support. And it doesn't matter if they lost their job or they got sick or they were mentally ill. They're in jail for failure to pay child support. Those are bodies. Those are human beings. Now, what is this my body, my choice argument when these guys are in jail and they had no choice in the matter? At the end of the day, they really didn't. What's that all about?
It's called disposability.
Disposability.
What are the men useful for? They're useful for going to war, getting injured on the job, and of course, paying for all. Yeah. That's not an indictment against women. That's
for how someone else decides to use their sperm, their genetic material.
And to be honest, I want to indict whomever. I don't care. It's not a question of men versus women. Because if men uphold that idea that we have to be expendable, then they are just at fault for it. Oh, you should man up. I hate the fucking phrase, man up.
Yeah, and you see that shit all the time. You know, even amongst men's rights activist circles, where you like some guy goes, "Oh, we gotta act like men. We gotta man up." So wait. That is used. That whole male disposability thing. This whole thing about protecting the female sex because they are supposedly weaker and they deserve it, and they because they're just helpless little flowers in the woods, you know, to whom things simply happen. That's used in a very cynical, and it's biological in nature. Let's make no mistake, it is. But it's being used in a cynical fashion to exploit men, and has been for a very long time. Well, I think it predates feminism. I think it predates feminism.
And the moment you tell somebody you should man up, well, I hate to say this, but for lack of a better term, you got them by the balls. Nobody likes this. And that is, you know, it's a very useful weapon. I'll give him that. But if you're a men's rights activist worth your salt, you just have to fight that too. I mean, for me, a man is just somebody who happens to have a Y chromosome. End of fucking story.
Yeah, right. And that's it.
I don't care about who you are. If you're a man, you're a man. You're a woman, you're a woman. End of fucking story. Don't tell me how to act based on what I have between my legs. I mean, besides, you know, being a courteous person, you don't really owe anybody any big behavior. You don't have to go to the gym 7 times a week and get fucking bulked up just because you are a man. No, you should do it if you want to.
If you want to, yeah.
If you want to be masculine in the most traditional sense, you know what? Go right ahead. But don't pretend you made the world a favor by being an asshole to those who don't want to. I mean, there's this guy on YouTube. His name is WarCorp666. Do you know him by any chance?
No.
Okay, so
I don't. WarCorp666.
If you want to look him up, that's great. But this guy is like, he's a bit on the men's rights activist thing. He doesn't actually like them because he doesn't like anybody who has an ideology. But he admits to the fact that he bakes. And you know what? I'm okay with that. But if this were like 20, 30 years ago, he would have been singled out and being called gay or whatever. That is just as, I think that is just as much as an enemy of men as feminists are. People who want us to, you know, return to the time when men worked in coal mines and, surprise, surprise, died from lung disease. Fuck that, dude. I don't need that. It's a crazy fantasy they have.
Well, it's this whole like provider and protector thing, and like, can I do it better than the next guy? Ugh. And if I do this, then I will have a wife that will love me forever and ever and ever and honor me, and I'll have this status and all of that. And that whole thing is just nothing but a pipe dream.
It's fraud.
It is a fraud. It is a pipe dream. I call it the stupid validation of manhood. This stupid idea that, you know, if only you find the right girl.
There's so many other.
It sounds just like a beer commercial, you know. If only you find the right girl, she'll treat you right forever, and you just have to be a man. Are you man enough for this? And that's really what that's what it's all about. And this is nothing new. This goes back thousands of years.
Yes.
And it is something that is used in a cynical way to exploit your average guy who buys into it, not just by women, but by thinking men, particularly by I think by clergy and by lawyers and by government, to get guys to fall in line and do what they need to do. We got to support the. And you hear this from tradcons all the time. Don't these guys know what they're doing to the culture by not getting married? The culture, you have to support the culture. What are you talking about, the culture?
Fuck that.
What about me? Yeah, what about me?
America's, and if you really think about it, America is about me. It's called individualism. You don't like it?
Yeah, exactly.
Go cry to your God.
Yeah, and it's not selfishness. It's someone saying, wait a minute, why should I go down this path? Just someone questioning the norm is something that's seen as selfish. What, you don't want to get married? You're selfish. You don't have kids, you're selfish. It doesn't matter that you have all these really good reasons to do neither. Really good reasons like not wanting to go to jail, not wanting to get falsely accused, not wanting to have to give half of everything you've ever earned to somebody that never earned it upon the dissolution of a relationship.
Or going halfway across the world to help somebody, or maybe climbing Mount Everest. Right. I think a lot of people prefer to climb Mount Everest than go through a divorce court.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, the good thing about Mount Everest is at least you die and your body gets left there and you're buried properly, essentially by the
and people think well of you.
Yeah, and in divorce court, well, you're just a castrated rooster who once could cuckoo very loudly, and now he's just a joke.
Yeah.
And it's just, it- and this is where MGTOW comes in. I'm sure you know these guys too.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I just like how they also, and I know there's a bit of friction between MRAs and MGTOWs. I don't want to
Yes.
get into,
Mhm.
you know what? To me, they are both great, and especially this guy on YouTube whose name is Louis Marco. I don't know if you know of him, but this guy,
No.
he's the red pill type guy who says, you know what, you should think about other things just beyond, boning women and whatever. That's essentially what his thing is. There are other things to pursue in life than getting a family. If I had the money and the resources and the patience, even that, I would travel through the 189 or so countries that there are in the world. Well, maybe except the one of those out of war. Maybe those no. But that is also a life. I could become a politician. That is also life. But no, we all have to fight this BS notion that men, because of the fact that they have, a certain set of genitalia, own society, a certain behavior. Here, why don't you sacrifice your life? Why don't you put your life in nature? No, I don't want it. And that goes, I think, to some extent, that goes beyond law, and that's just people getting educated. To be honest, that one part, I guess, will be a bit more difficult to tackle because there's a difference between making a law that bans circumcision, and then you have people who still believe that men gotta do this and that to validate their fucking genome. I don't know. I've gotten this from other people, even women, and I've seen it. It hasn't traumatized me, but I see it and I realize, wow, you people are fucking backward. Of course, I haven't said that to them, but it's pervasive. That's the correct word. Ay, ay, ay.
Well, okay, before we go, it's about 10:26 right now.
Mhm.
I like to leave it at about 10:30 or so nowadays. If you had one, and maybe there are people at the University of Maryland who are going to listen to this, maybe there aren't, but if you had one message to people at the University of Maryland who appreciated your articles and liked what you had to say, and maybe it even changed their perspective on the world, what advice would you give them right now? Would it be to kind of get into the fray and maybe start writing for the Diamondback, or start doing some event activism on campus, or to do the opposite where you just sort of like lay low or whatever? What what
Okay.
would be your advice right now, as if?
If you have something to say and you think you write well, by all means go to the Diamondback or even start a blog because when you start writing, you just can't stop, and that's good. Because I personally have so many thoughts in my head that I wish I could just put elsewhere, like moving data away from a computer. If you're that type of person with so many thoughts in your head, the Diamondback or a similar publication would be a great place to start. And when it comes to keeping a low profile, no, I don't think you necessarily have to do that. In the case of the email that was leaked, I think you can learn from my mistake and what I did, and just realize, well, in an age where everything's digitized, everything's out there, you can't keep things private anymore, and you're held accountable to that. And if something like that happens to you, just get support from your family, from your friends. I did that. It was pretty unpleasant when that happened to me, but I pulled through it, and I'm still pulling through it, to be honest. So whatever happens, just keep at it. If writing is your thing, or maybe making videos on YouTube as opposed to writing it down is your thing, go for it. Whichever way needed. It doesn't have to be the Diamondback, but if that's what you have closest to you, by all means, do it. Just do it. Just give it a try. You don't have to stick with it like I did for a year. You might as well do it for a few months and then say, I'm calling it quits. But at least you walk away saying, you know what? I did something. This could lead me somewhere. I got what I wanted. So to reiterate, just if you need to write, if you need to express yourself, don't postpone it. Just do it. Whichever way you need to. And don't feel silence. Try to fight that feeling and just say what you want to say. I don't care if you agree with me as Gonzalo personally. Just do it. That's what freedom of speech and that's what the media is for.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us,
My pleasure.
Mr. Molinolo. I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a great show. Loved what you had to say. Loved talking with you. And would like to see some of your articles on A Voice for Men. James Huff, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Hey.
For our listeners.
Say again. I'm getting a lot of breakup.
Do we have any final advice for our listeners?
Yes, we do. Take the red pill.